And it's lights out.
Welcome back to another episode of Drive Thru Penalty. I'm Sean. I'm here with my father, Craig, as always. And this week we are headed to Singapore for another GP.
And we're getting our first night race. And I don't, maybe you don't think Formula One should be under the lights. I don't think it really matters because I am a traditionalist. But I remember seeing the first one in 2008 and just going, wow, this is a spectacle. You know, you're almost overwhelmed on how different it is at night and how they can still perform the way they do and everything. But it worked out really cool. I have no complaints about this one.
No, me neither. And I agree. I love the night races. It's a little bit different. It's totally different optics and great for viewership. But there's a reason why, they do it at nighttime.
It's the same reason they do Vegas at night.
And if you follow along, it is one of the most grueling, difficult, demanding circuits of the year. And on top of that, it's hot as hell.
Yeah, this is a really, really tough race on the drivers for various reasons. The track itself is very difficult. There's a lot of walls. And there's probably more turns, I think, than any other circuit that they race on. 19
to be exact.
But the temperatures and the humidity, it's the maximum weight loss each driver has during a race, like of all the races. This is the most grueling on them. And
FIA has actually put some parameters in place for the drivers. One of them is that they actually have a cooling system in the car. They're allowed an extra 5 kilograms of weight because of it, but yeah, you need this.
When you say a cooling system, you mean so they can drink? Like
a ventilation system, a cooling air system. A lot of the drivers wear the cold vests and stuff like that. But if you watch Drive to Survive, I think the first time you got a glimpse of it was, watching Russell leave the car after the race. The guy looked like he was dead.
So what do you think of the track? Tell us about this track.
So we are at the Marina Bay street circuit, 4.94 kilometers long, 62 laps, 19 turns, 4 DRS zones. One was added in 2024 to give a little extra added boost for overtaking. And the lap record was held by none other than Daniel Ricciardo himself in 2024 with 1 minute and 34 seconds on Daniel's grand exit out of Formula One. It was a little bit of an emotional race last year. I don't know if you remember, but they kind of did a little cut to Daniel and he kind of sat in the car for a little longer than normal. He didn't get out right away. And, people started questioning right away, is this his last race? Is this his retirement of Formula One? They did it wrong. They should have announced it ahead of time. The fans should have known, but... You know what? By the time the smoke clears,
There's been no mention of him ever since. And Cadillac brought in a couple of new guys, and just all this discussion. There aren't any new drivers in the wings. There's this one guy they're talking about, the guy that's going to be the backup driver in Cadillac. He's the captain of third place. He's been third in Formula 3, third in Formula 2. The Italian Formula Championship, he came third 2 years in a row. So they don't have that special guy coming.
You're right. There is another guy that might replace somebody who currently has a seat in Formula One, and one of the drivers under the gun at the moment is Franco Colapinto. I don't know how you feel about Franco, but he hasn't done anything really that stood out this year. We saw him have some pretty incredible overtakes last year. Nothing memorable for me this year.
No, but I think he's learning, and it depends on what car you're sitting in too. But I don't think anybody's going to give up on him.
He's actually been performing better than Pierre Gasly at the moment.
And Gasly is a known decent racer. He hasn't come from nowhere. He's won races before. And listen, he's not driving a Red Bull. He's not driving a McLaren.
He's driving a tractor is what he's driving. So, maybe that's another reason why Gasly's not pushing so hard. He knows he's got this contract secured. What's the point?
I don't think you could say he's not pushing hard. He's going as fast as he can.
Another driver kind of under the gun right now is Yuki Tsunoda. And he finished 6th place last week in Azerbaijan. His best race finish with Red Bull. But Red Bull is currently evaluating, whether or not he should have the seat moving forward. And if I were the head team principal there, I would be considering some other options because he hasn't quite done it for me.
I don't see him sticking it out, but I don't think it's going to be a young guy. I think they can kind of get whoever they want. Well, but that does bring us to Red Bull, and that brings us to Max Verstappen. And, Max Verstappen in Nürburgring again, the place where they don't have the Formula One race, and everybody talks about Nürburgring. He's the fastest guy out there. And the interesting thing in the GT3 race is he raced for Ferrari. And that's the first Ferrari podium so far.
I've seen nothing but memes this last week, Charles and Lewis. And anyways, the guy's incredible. I'm going to say I was just as excited to watch that race last weekend as I was one of the Formula One races. He led that race the entire time.
That's because the instructor showed him the proper lines the week before.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He was a minute and 11 seconds ahead, I think, when he went in for the driver change. The guy that ended up swapping in for him was brought in by Verstappen Racing. He's actually an eSIM racer. Verstappen saw some talent in him. The gap from second to first was closed down to 24 seconds, so he didn't quite, put in the same lap times and stint that Max did.
Well, if he did, then we'd know who would be replacing Tsunoda.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But, congratulations to Max. He's going to make the rest of the season extremely exciting. He's closing the gap on Lando. He's closing the gap on Oscar. And me personally, for myself, I would love to see Max win this race this weekend. Wouldn't it make for a great rest of the season?
Isn't it kind of neat how all of a sudden we're all cheering for Max Verstappen? I mean, he had that bad one where he took out Russell or something, a couple of months ago. But other than that, he's taking it like a man, and I respect that with him. Yeah, I think he's got a big cheering section, and I think everybody's going to try and find a way to get him into their pool.
And that being said, we'll talk a little bit about fantasy later. But if you're looking for a differentiator on your team right now, Max Verstappen might be the guy to swap in.
Or Red Bull.
Yeah, but I'm still not
Then
set.
you get Yuki too.
Then that comes along with Yuki,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure I'm fully committed to that. I still think Ferrari and McLaren are probably the two top constructors in terms of scoring points. When you factor in the pit stop times and all that stuff. But if you're looking at an individual driver, you can afford two drivers, and Max can be your second or first. Obviously, I would consider that. Yeah, I think he'd be a great asset for any team, especially if you're looking for a differentiator. We'll talk a little bit later also about points to use this weekend. We're closing in on the end of the season. You're probably chasing a position. There's definitely some things to look out for. We're going to use our favorite tool, f1fantasytools.com. We'll get into that in just a little bit.
Well, before we get into present, I just wanted to say a few things about the Singapore Grand Prix. And it was, there actually was racing there in 66 to 73. But as everything was in those days, it was extremely dangerous. It was a different circuit, but it was still the same flavor. And they had a lot of issue with traffic concerns. And so they ended up shutting it down. And it was my buddy, Mr. Ecclestone, who put it back together. And they resumed racing in 2008. And the interesting thing in 2008 was there was a lot of controversy in 2008 because Fernando Alonso, who ended up winning the race, probably wasn't going to win the race. And the team management ordered his teammate, Nelson Piquet, and they wanted him to crash because it brought the safety car out, which enabled Alonso to win. And
Crashgate scandal, yeah.
there was a lot, yeah. Anyways, that's what happens, I guess.
Setups are going to be different this weekend. Teams are going to be using the Monaco rear wing most likely. Expect to see a one-stop race.
So qualifying is important.
Qualifying is extremely important here, and if you're going to watch anything this weekend, it's going to be it's going to be the Saturday. It's going to be great. Teams don't necessarily push as hard during the race on the Sunday because there's not a lot of there's no overtaking, right? So we'll see some crashes. We'll see
some.
Like
Monaco that way?
Some people consider it Monaco with walls. I know we talked about
the DRS. You said there's 4 DRS zones.
They've added a 4th DRS zone in 2024 to encourage overtaking, but you still don't see a lot of it. So cars aren't pushing at their maximum pace. Tire wear isn't extremely high, which is why we'll probably only see a one-stop race. Most likely going to start on softs or mediums. You're going to finish the race on hards. I know we say every race is, every track is my favorite, but I love Singapore. I truly do, especially for the
Which
East.
one don't you like?
Mexico.
Okay, that's
not a big Mexico guy. I'm excited. Actually,
We're
next
coming
week.
there soon.
Yeah, Austin is actually my favorite, maybe, but no, I'm really excited about this one.
So I think something that's interesting, or at least I find it interesting, is because of the track and the conditions and the condition that the driver has to be in. I think it's an interesting call on who you think is going to do well this particular race. So I'll start by saying the ones I don't think they're going to do well. Okay, I don't think this is going to be a very good race for the older guys, the veterans, because it's physically punishing. And I know they're all in great shape and everything, but so is everybody else there. So I think I'm sorry, but I don't think this is a Lewis track. I don't think it's an Alonso track, and Alonso's won there a few times. The other side of the story is because they're racing on the walls and all this crazy stuff, I don't think it's a race for the rookies either.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Right. So you know what that leaves us with? Right down the middle, you got...
Charles Leclerc.
You do have Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc.
You do have Leclerc, you got Russell, you've got Max Verstappen, you've got Piastri, and you've got Lando Norris, and then anybody else in that age group, but I don't think like Carlos Sainz, but I don't know how their cars are going to do. So I'm not trying to say anybody's too old or too young, but I think this particular race might lead to that.
Congratulations to Carlos Sainz for a spectacular race in Azerbaijan. And like
it was a great one, but because of all the bullshit in the Q3, he ended up where he was.
But I think you're right on track. I think those are the guys I also expect to see do well. You can add Alex Albon to that list.
Yeah, that age group.
Gasly, exactly.
If you got 4 or 5 years in a car, and not 10, 15 years, I think you got a good chance. 1 year's not enough, I don't think, to get around this circuit. These guys will be bouncing off the walls because you can't pass. So now what do you do, right? Anyways, why don't you get into your car and show us?
Did I drive this week?
Drive Max's car. We'll compare times.
All right, sounds good. Let's do it. We are at the Marina Bay Street Circuit, using the entire width of the track here. Braking late at the 100-meter board. Good exit is very important as we turn into Republic Boulevard. Great opportunity to overtake here in Singapore. Coming up to a short right-hander, Memorial Corner. Flat out here, another great opportunity to pass. Sweep right here and heading into Memorial, which is a tight left-hander. One of the most crucial parts of the track to get right. Another slow right-hander here. And coming up to Padang, a quick left. Back onto the throttle early. And then a quick left, then right into Esplanade as we just try to get this right. Downshift to second gear. This part of the circuit is crucial. It is fast. And that is one of the hardest corners to nail. Coming up into a tricky right-hander, braking just after that 100-meter board. No room for error. Back on the throttle, up to 6th gear, 7th gear. And we are looking for that little board, just braking again after that 100-meter. Quick right, sweeping left, just hanging on. Final turn here. Downshift to 5th. Tires are sticking. Open up that DRS. That's a lap at Singapore.
All right, Sean. Thanks for the lap. It was a hot one out there, eh?
Holy smokes. Yeah, it's a scorcher in there. Thing gets up to 45 degrees. Can you believe it? You can see why I enjoy it. It's technical. It's quick.
Nobody passed you.
Not a single person
You
passed.
didn't pass anybody else either.
But it's a lot of fun. I think maybe we take this opportunity now to jump into fantasy because a lot to chat about, and it's very important to set our teams up for the end of the season. I don't know where you are in the standings, but it's never too late, and you probably have some chips left over.
That's what I was going to suggest. Take account of your chips. If you have X amount of chips left, you don't have that many races left to use them, and you can't use 2 chips in one race. So take stock of what you own, and sooner or later you better step up and use them.
Welcome back to another F1 fantasy segment here. We are headed into the Marina Bay circuit for the Singapore GP, and we need to set up our lineups for this week accordingly. Not sure what everyone's teams look like. It seems that my team is still pretty much in line with a lot of other management out there. So, either a Piastri or Norris as your premium driver, unless you can afford the two premiums. So you might have Piastri Leclerc, Piastri Russell, but a lot of guys are kind of looking like they have a team like this, and girls, of course. Those of you managers who made that really smart move and used your final fix chip last week into Max Verstappen, might have him in there right now. But this is kind of what we're going to base our team on. As you know, FP1, FP2, the practice sessions are extremely important to get a better feel for what the weekend's going to look like, whose upgrades are working, whose aren't, and who's sandbagging. So, everybody's talking about Max Verstappen this week. Is there a spot for him on your team? Maybe there is. I'm going to certainly look at some options as to whether or not I can put him in there. Piastri had a rough race week last week. That doesn't mean that he's off my team. He has been ye old faithful for me, and he's been here since day one, and he hasn't let me down. He's actually what's kind of brought me all the way to the top. So I do like Piastri, but that being said, Max Verstappen is chasing the McLaren guys right now. He is fast, he's furious. He just came off a big GT3 win. So, he's carrying that momentum here into Singapore. And we're gonna obviously hop over to the budget builder section of the F1 Fantasy Tools app to kind of see where everything's looking, because Alex Albon at first glance is reserving $13 million of my total cost cap, which we'll see where he is. Maybe there's a better option there. Ferrari and McLaren still looking like probably the best two constructors, but let's jump into it right now and we'll have a look. So here we are, best app, f1fantasytools.com, budget builder, my favorite section by far. But if you look at the tier A drivers, Verstappen's at the top of that list right now for budget gain. He only needs 12 points to reach that maximum plus 3 million. It's probably not going to be too hard for him to do that. But looking all the way down to the bottom of the list, you have Piastri, who I own right now, and I'm still chasing budget because I believe I can still get there in the next 1 or 2 weeks. I'm closer, but he needs 88 points to hit that maximum threshold, 64 to hit that +1, and that's a lot of points. So maybe I swap him out this week, bring him in next week if he has a good race, because I don't think Russell's my premium guy all the way down to Norris, and as Craig said earlier, maybe Hamilton struggles this week. But looking over at the constructors now, Red Bull's at the top. I don't like Yuki enough to put Red Bull in there as one of my premiums. They're also pretty expensive, just coming in under Ferrari at 30.6 million. They're 29.3. So that's going to be a juggle. Definitely going to watch the practice sessions to figure that one out. But I do want to save my moves. I probably only want to make 2 moves this week. Most importantly, the tier B drivers. So Sainz, Lawson, Bortoleto are the top 3 predicted to make that plus 6 million increase, and I have those guys. But I also have Alex Albon, and he's all the way down here under Behrman, Colapinto, Hadjar, and Gasly, and he needs 19 points. Not that I don't trust him, but it's going to be difficult. I think there might be somebody in there who can put as many points up as him this week. And, we said Gasly's an experienced driver. I just don't love the Alpine. Hadjar has impressed me this year. He is a rookie. We talked about the risks of bringing a rookie into your team here, but probably kind of where I'm going to go. So jumping back in here over to my team, that would mean I would be dropping Piastri, I would be dropping Alex Albon, and I would go with Max Verstappen, and all the way down, I could take Behrman, rookie, potential mistakes, Hadjar, same thing. But I'm probably going to roll the dice with this team right here. Obviously my 2x driver boost on Max Verstappen. If anything changes, I might be able to move some stuff around. But the point here is, again, to make as much money possible, because depending on how this goes and Mercedes looks this week, maybe Ferrari gets dropped, downgraded or upgraded, however you want to look, to Mercedes, and then maybe take a -10 next week, take Hadjar out, get Kimi in, maybe enough for Russell, but that's kind of what we're looking at this week. Other than that, there are some chips to use. If you haven't used Limitless, we're getting to that point where there's not too many races left. You might want to reserve it for a sprint, depending on where you stand in your pool. If you're just chasing the global standings, those top teams already have 2 premium drivers, and every week you wait, you're losing points. But if you're in a pool in a league like mine, safe to say there's not too many guys up at the top who have that 2A premium. So it's not a big deal if we have to wait an extra week. I'm probably going to go use it at the next sprint. And I'm going to look at other chips right now to use, like maybe this is the no negative. Jumping over to the forecast here for Singapore this weekend. You know, the title of this is Brutal Weather Forecast for 2025 Singapore Grand Prix. Just looking at it at a quick glance, 45% chance of rain on the Friday, Saturday 20% chance of rain, and Sunday chance of rain. So you get rain on top of this extremely tough circuit. It's going to make for a tough race. I expect to see some crashes, and it's whether or not you want to roll the dice here and use it. We know Brazil's coming up. Historically, Brazil has been a track for rain, so maybe we save it there and just kind of cross our fingers here and hope for the best. Not much we can really do, right? Like it's a gamble at the end of the day, so that gut instinct is going to come into play. But I like the team right now. If you have any questions, drop yours below. Would love to see them, and yeah, good luck to y'all.
Okay, Sean, thanks for the info. As I always say, keep what you want and get rid of what you don't.
Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. We really appreciate you. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. It really helps support the channel. And
before we go to Singapore, this is also a big entertainment night in Singapore. So, like after the race, Elton John's playing there. The Foo Fighters are playing there. So it's a big gala. It's a big night in Singapore. And here we are.
Here we are.